Actually, I got this camera for 10 months already, but 1 year sounds more dramatic. Before I got Canon 200D and actually Sony A6400, and I changed A6400 for this guy, which might seems unreasonable, although there are too many pros to not change it. So overall cost to change it was around 300 bucks. And what are the benefits? Especially the battery life, because when I'm shooting wildlife, sessions sometimes last 3 hours plus, and with the A6400 and these old batteries, I had to get at least 2 in my pocket. And sometimes in this critical moment, when you're about to shoot the photo of the day or photo of your life, it turns out that your battery is dead and you have to change it, and it takes 5 minutes, and the bird you were shooting is away. So the better battery was a reason to switch. And also, since I was using A6400 and this guy for a moment as my A camera for shooting basketball games, with A6400 I wasn't able to shoot the whole game because the battery was depleted somewhat mid-game. I have to change it, I have to constantly check the power level. The workaround was to power it from the battery bank, but then there was another element: you have to charge it, you have to remember to plug it, you have to remember to take it. And with this one, the whole game is between 40 to 50% of the battery, so you never worry that you run out of the battery, and then after the game you can shoot additional footage or some photos. FZ100 battery life is much better, so this is one of the reasons. Another power related thing is that you are able to power it via USB. Unfortunately it's micro USB, but still, and it can run 10 hours, and this is really beneficial when you are using this for your conf calls, because you don't have to worry about your battery life. You can just plug it to the wall and use it that way. And I'm using this either with the 8M Mini Pro or this small HDMI to USB dongle, and it works like a charm. I was also using my A6400 as my pocket camera and walk around camera. So when I switch, there is no difference. Maybe the A6600 is a bit heavier, but the change is really small. And this is my usual setup for this to be pocketable, but lately I switched for this one. So this is GM5 with 20 millimeters, and this is 24 millimeters on A6600. So basically I prefer this one or GM5 with 45 millimeters. So A6600 is not my pocket camera anymore, it's too big, but it is still a really good camera to take photos. I was also considering buying a full frame camera like A7 III or Canon R5, R6 or whatever is available on the market. Since I'm shooting a lot of wildlife, the bigger reach with a crop sensor is a better option, and for me there is not enough magic related to the full frame look. So, and also lenses are much cheaper, so actually this A6600 is a really good choice. Another thing is it got IBIS, so it's theoretically better than A6400 with this IBIS in body image stabilization. So for sure there are many pros over the 6400 to get this one, and as mentioned before, especially battery life is key here. I got 2 batteries for this one and it's plenty enough. Also continue shooting when the camera is plugged into the external power source, and I would say this is the perfect choice for YouTube videos, but only for studio videos when the camera is stationary. For anything else like vlogging, you need a gimbal or really good optical stabilization in the lens. You should HLG profile and you can upload it directly to YouTube, and the quality in 4K is amazing, I would say. Of course it is only 8-bit for 2.0, but who needs more for YouTube? I guess you can get away even for some commercial work with this camera. It's really good camera, so there are for sure really strong arguments to get this over the A6400. And before why I even switched to Sony, because my Canon 200D got 9 autofocus points, 9, and this one got, I don't know how many, but it's basically the whole sensor. You can choose where to focus, and on the Canon it was only 9, and it was really annoying for shooting wildlife. Okay, so what are the cons? The main con is that this camera is missing joystick on the back, and in wildlife photography it's kind of crucial to have a joystick to be able to quickly change focusing points. And with this one, and I'm shooting mostly with flexible spot focusing, so I got this small focus area, and to move it I have to use this wheel, which also got directional keys, so it's really annoying to move it, and in most cases I should rule of thirds. So I haven't locked my focus point. It is always, the mode is always that I'm able to move it, but then when I got this mode I cannot switch some other parameters which are assigned to the wheel, like ISO, exposure and stuff like that. I have to press the center button and then change them, and that might be the case that I forget to press it again to activate the focus mode, so it is quite annoying. The joystick is available on any pro level APS-C DSLR like D500 from Nikon or Canon 7D, so it is really strange that this thing is missing joystick, because it is supposed to be flagship Sony APS-C camera. Probably there will be a new one introduced this year, so maybe it would have a joystick, but this is really annoying that the joystick is missing, and it would be perfect camera, but it is not. Another thing is that the fastest shutter speed is 1/4000th of a second, which is not always enough when you got really fast glass and you want to shoot something outside, and then you are overexposed. You have to stop down the glass or use ND filter, which is kind of strange, because this small guy got electronic shutter. It's like 5, 6 or 8 camera. I got electronic shutter which goes up to 1600s, so 4 times faster than this 1-year-old camera. It's strange, but I think it's crippled on purpose, because every Sony full frame, it is 1/8000th of a second or even 1/16,000th of a second, so for some reason it is only 1/4000th, so it is sometimes annoying. There is a workaround, because it got extended ISO down to ISO 50. So with ISO 50 you can emulate the same exposure as with ISO 100 and 1/8000th of the second shutter speed. But to switch to ISO 50 you have to click at least 3 times, and then you have again press buttons 3 times, so it is really annoying. And if there would be a shutter speed of 1/8000th of a second, it would be much better when there is a harsh light outside. So I guess it's crippled on purpose, but because every Sony APS-C camera got this limitation, and all full frame cameras got faster shutter speed, so kind of annoying. And also it shows that Sony does not treat APS-C cameras seriously. And another thing is a flash sync speed, which is also limited, and for Sony full frame cameras it is 1/250, and for APS-C it is only 1/160, which is also kind of bummer. So again, you are a bit limited when shooting with flash, and my old Canon 20D was able to shoot up to 1/250. So for some reason Sony APS-C is limited here. Why it is a problem? Especially if you're shooting kids with a flash, the faster shutter speed would be better, and also if you're shooting with fast glass. Of course you can use ND for fast glass, but then it's another accessory you have to buy and use, so it is kinda annoying. That I think it is crippled on purpose, or maybe I don't know what's the reason. You can shoot with high-speed sync up to the maximum shutter speed, but for high-speed sync you need a flash which supports high-speed sync, and it's not that amazing because sometimes you get banding, so that's another con which I don't like about it. Kinda annoying problem for shooting video in Europe is that we have to use PAW and we have to shoot 25 frames per second. Why? Because every artificial light which flickers 50 times a second here, which means if you want your footage not be flickering, then you have to sync with this 50 times per second flicker. And to sync it, you either have to use 50 frames per second or 25 frames per second. And what is the problem here is when you are using this camera with an external monitor via HDMI, in terms of the monitor, when you press the record button and when you are recording internally, the workaround is to use external recorder like Ninja 5, but the Ninja is quite expensive workaround, around $600, so it's not really workaround, it's another purchase. So when you are able to shoot 24, it's not a big deal, but here, whenever I got artificial light, either inside or outside, the footage flickers when I use 24 FPS, so it is quite annoying. I can deflicker it in post, but it takes time and you need really powerful computer to do it. So that's another con of this camera. So it's kind of annoying limitation because it's only 1 frame per second more, and the CPU of this camera is not able to cope with 4K 25p internal recording and autofocus at the same time, while sending signal via HDMI. That's the sad fact. Then the IBIS. So it might be a reason for someone to buy this over another APS-C camera because this got IBIS, and I'm not able to see any difference between this camera and A6400 in terms of shooting photos or videos. And for me, the video is as shaky as on A6400 whenever it's shot handheld. But the only native lens with image stabilization I got is Sony kit lens, and even with both stabilizations turned on, the footage is still shaky. I recorded 1 or 2 videos that are on my channel, and it is really annoying that it shakes so much. Even if you try to hold it really steady, the footage is still shaky. And for wildlife photography, I haven't seen any difference. I got Sigma 150 to 600, and this lens got really nice optical image stabilization, so I haven't seen any difference in shooting wildlife with IBIS on and off. I still keep it on, but there is no much difference versus the old version of this camera, so I would say IBIS is really shitty in this camera. Another quite annoying thing here is that you don't have a separate settings for video and photo shooting. You got this on full frame Sony cameras, but here it does not exist. For sure you got two custom settings on a mode dial, and you can program more because there are, whenever you switch to the custom mode, you can choose from 6 of them or something like that, but there are several clicks to do it and you have to remember to do it, which is kind of annoying. My workaround is that I got video settings saved as custom mode and I do not switch other settings when shooting photo modes, so that's some kind of the workaround, but it's kind of annoying that you have to do some workarounds instead of having this option. And another thing which does not work as advertised is the autofocus speed. Although the problem might be that I'm using mostly third-party lenses, so Sigma Trio, this small Samyang, and the big Sigma 150 to 600, and the focus is not that fast as advertised, although might be the case that the motors in these lenses are too slow for the body itself. It might be the case this is my fault because I do not have native glass. The only native lens I got is kit lens, which is not that good also, but it's a fact that with third-party lenses it's not that good. The autofocus in video, it's really nice. The eye autofocus works really well, even with third-party lenses. Although, for example, with this small Samyang, only with the 6th iteration of the firmware, it started to work really good. Before it was hunting a bit, but now it works really good. Also, Sigma Trio is really good. Still, photo autofocus is not that good as advertised with third-party lenses. And I guess this is especially a problem with this Sigma 18-35. This lens cannot cope with the autofocus via MC11 adapter. It is like missing 50 or 40% of the shots whenever you shoot something that moves even slowly. So for sure, I do not recommend this lens for shooting photos on Sony A6600 and 6400. Although for video it's a really good option. The caveat is, since it is really big lens, you have to somehow support it, because either way it would crack your lens mount, because now it's only a lens, then you have to put MC11 adapter on it, and it puts really high force and pressure on the camera mount, so you need something to support it. And there is no collar on the lens itself, which is kinda bummer. And for video stuff, this camera shoots only 8-bit 420 internally. If you use Atomos, it is 422, still 8-bit. I would say it's not a big deal, especially if you are uploading your videos to YouTube. There is not much difference before 420 or 422. The only time I've seen it makes a difference when I was shooting my basketball games, and now this is my B cam. My A cam is BMPC66K, and the problem was when I was shooting internally, it was quite hard to match color grade with the Blackmagic camera, and when I was shooting externally to Atomos, it was a bit easier. There was some kind of the greenish tint to the footage, and I checked a few lenses, and it was the same case whatever lens I used, so it was not related to the lens, but it was probably related to this different compression of the colors between 420 or 422, but in most cases that doesn't matter. And also worth noting that it was shot in ISO 1600 or maybe even 2500. So if you plan to shoot higher ISO values internally, there might be small problem with the 420 color compression on this, but for usual stuff like daily videos when the lighting is good, or the YouTube videos when you got good lighting, it's not a problem. So the only time it was a problem for me, it was when I was color matching internally shot footage from this camera with the Blackmagic 6K. So I guess it's a really rare occurrence that anyone would do it. So this 420 color compression is not a really big problem. Although shooting externally to Atomos is quite nice, because you got lighter files. They are bigger, but they are easier to work with, so might be a thing to consider. When I was using A6600 and A6400 as my A video camera, I was using the small rig cage, because you cannot actually attach too much to the camera itself, and the annoying thing is when you flip your screen up, the mic blocks the view. So originally I got the cage, but when I switched to Blackmagic 6K as a camera, I get rid of cage, and I got this double cold shoe relocator. When I got one cold shoe here, another here, and it's enough for this, and it's much lighter that way. But you still need something, because the hot shoe is in the center of the camera, which is kinda pointless. This hot shoe placement might be also annoying when you got a flash trigger and you want to shoot some selfies or auto portraits, however you call them, and the trigger would get in front of the screen, so you need external screen for this. But generally I'm quite happy about this camera, although I lately mostly use it for video conferencing and recording YouTube videos. I would say it's one of the best options for YouTube. although it's not that cheap, but it got really good battery life. The only caveat is that it is not good for vlogging because the IBIS and image stabilization is quite poor. So for this you need a gimbal, and then with the gimbal it is probably too heavy for vlogging. So there are other options for vlogging, but anything stationary, it is really good camera. You can upload directly from the camera if you expose correctly and shoot in high log gamma. It is really good option. And also, what are the pros above other APS systems is the choice of the lenses. You got Sigmas, you got Tamrons, Samyangs, like this one, although this one is a full frame, it's really cheap. You got some native glass, you got Viltrox, so there are plenty of options. So with these brands you got also really wide price range, so from really cheap lenses, although still really good quality, to very expensive Sony lenses, and you can choose whatever you want. Although Sony does not have big range of APS-C lenses, the third parties does, and that's why I'm using mostly third-party lenses. And for wildlife, I'm still considering Sony 200 to 600 because it seems it is much better regarding autofocus. It is much faster lens. It's not adapted lens like my Sigma, so might be the case I could get better results with it. So I plan to rent it for 1 or 2 days and see if it makes any difference regarding especially autofocus and speed of autofocus and its accuracy, because with the Sigma I guess I missed like 30% of the shots. It's not a big deal because I shoot serial photos with high setting, but still it is better to have the native lens probably for wildlife. Anyway, I'd say I'm really happy with this camera, but you should know all the caveats which come with the camera. There are plenty of reviews which say that this camera is amazing and does not have any flaws, but it does. So you have to be aware what you can expect from this camera. And some example photos I have taken with this camera after the commercial break. Cheers, mate.